Well, hello and a very warm welcome to Coffee with the Canons from Coventry Cathedral. Only one Canon today. I'm Kate Massey. I'm the Canon for Arts and Reconciliation here. And I'm joined by our very special guest today. Our guest is Professor Nirmal Puwar. And Nirmal, I was saying to you before that at the cathedral, I get to meet all these extraordinary people, and I find myself entertaining angels unawares because we have a fantastic team of people. And I only found out when I came to do your bio just how incredible you are, because you're a professor at Goldsmith University in London, and that you've written pretty much a seminal book on Space Invaders, Race, Gender and Bodies Out of Place, which is being reissued as a special 20th anniversary edition soon. But you've also been working with us since 2023 on multicultural lives in the civic life of a cathedral, which is amazing. So I love, we'll talk about all of that in just a moment, but this is Coffee with the Canons. So we always start by discussing our mugs. I've got my mug, which I think I just stole because it was the prettiest one in the kitchen, but it's a bunch of cathedral people in a procession, which is something that I've had to learn how to do in my 4 months since
Very
arriving
colourful,
here.
yes.
Yes, I like it a lot. Tell me about your mug.
So my mug, I actually picked it up on the way here, largely because I forgot to bring one from home. I picked it up from the Herbert Gallery, which is across the road from the cathedral. And it's the names of different birds. So it's a very basic but important lesson in recognising birds around us.
Ah.
And it's actually really nice. It's a bone china cup.
Lovely. And are you like bird watching? Is that something
I
that...
think that's an aspiration.
Ah,
that
okay.
Maybe
Maybe the mug will help.
Life, yes. Yes.
Wonderful. We're so delighted to have you here. A beautiful mug. So yeah. So what we love to do is find out about some of the incredible people who are part of our life here at the cathedral. And you have been part of our life here at the cathedral for a couple of years now, but you've also been doing some remarkable work. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself first and foremost? And
Yes. So first I want to say this is a great concept, Coffee with the Canons. And I really like the relaxed format, very different from the formality one often associates with canons, but we know that they have this very, very varied life and you do everything that's involved in the cathedral life. So I came to the cathedral on this instance, I should say. I've worked on another project called Noise of the Past in 2008. Which was the AHRC project, to rethink remembrance so that the global dead are part of it and that remembrance doesn't reproduce militarism.
yes.
So on this occasion, as you said, Kate, my project's called Multicultural Experiments in the Civic Life of a Cathedral. It's the British Academy Innovation Project. And to put it simply, I'm here to kind of pay attention to the very experimental ways in which in the 60s and the 70s, multicultural lives were built in the cathedral. And I'm not only paying attention, I'm here to share that and also to be inspired for bold innovations for what we're doing now, what we're going forward with. And the events team, the engagement teams, both of those teams have been so receptive.
Yes.
And really intrigued by the slightest bit of information from the archives. So I spent a bit of time in the archives, but my information source is not only with the archives. I've worked with a lot of collaborators, which I've brought into the project. So I see it as activating the archive through a contact zone with my collaborators. And this has involved creating a lot of events, an exhibition that's on at the moment called Absence Presence, as well as a podcast series called Here.
Absolutely. And we will definitely make sure we signpost to some of these incredible resources for people who want to find out more about Nirmal's work. And I really want to amplify what you said about collaboration, working with the arts and events team. They have been receptive. We've all been very inspired by the hidden parts of the cathedral story, which haven't received the attention that they really deserve. It's been fantastic to understand new aspects of the cathedral's history and our shared story. So it's been brilliant. So how did you get into academia? How, let's go right back. How did you end up doing what you do?
Yes, I'm from Coventry, so I was born in Coventry, in Walsgrave Hospital, as it was called then. I went to quite a wild but inspiring secondary school in Coventry called Binley Park.
Uh-huh.
It's no longer there. It's a Morrison's shop, a shopping centre now. And I studied sociology. It was one subject that really, switched me on and probably made me quite an annoyance to my family because I questioned everything. And then I went on to study sociology from undergraduate, master's, PhD.
Yeah.
The PhD led to the book Space Invaders.
Yeah.
And it was one of those subjects which was a light bulb moment for me.
Yeah.
It changed how I looked at the world. So that's how I came to be an academic. And I actually think it's absolute privilege to be an academic.
Yeah.
The university sectors, I can't recognise a lot of it from when I first went in.
Yeah.
Because the market is now cutting up academia, and a lot of colleagues are losing their jobs everywhere. It's a place for thinking, it's for making community, it's for generating depth and coming together to co-learn, but also having space away so that you can build a lot of understanding and analysis. And it's also a way of intervening in the world.
Yes. That's amazing. Now, I told you this beforehand, that when I was reading your bio, there was this wonderful line which said that you were a master connector. I just love that as a description of you as a person and as an academic. So tell me, how did you come to be a master connector?
I guess that's what we do in the university.
Yeah.
We seek to connect with our students. We're lucky to have great colleagues to connect. Then we always bring guests in, and we connect with the materials around us, the literature, the films we watch, the music we listen to, and we build communities, different kinds of kinships and networks.
Yeah.
And the cathedral's been an interesting place because it's full of these wires.
Yeah.
Wires are waiting to be connected, I think, through the archives, but also through the building. And there's also a lot of cross wires, I would say, as there is in any institution. There are points of, there are sparks, there are tensions. Mm-hmm. And in this project, I've been privileged to be able to build community inside the cathedral, but also to link it in with colleagues outside of the city and across the city, so that they bring their own specialisms and knowledge. So each of us have a particular signature, and it's joining that up with other people. That's where the strength lies.
It's amazing, isn't it? I mean, you're talking about from your perspective, but I'm relatively new to the reconciliation scene. What I'm discovering is there's lots of people who care about the same stuff, who have the same values of community, of valuing difference and its riches, and what do different cultures and experiences bring to our shared life. And we're all trying to do our own little bit of work in our own little corner. But how powerful that could be if we were in touch with each other and encouraging each other and sharing resources and ideas and energy. And that just sounds, you've really helped us to begin to do that. And
I hope so. Yeah, I hope so. I think it's just, we need gathering points of contact.
Yeah.
Often it's not that you need a drink together. Sometimes that helps some people, but you almost need to spread a problem.
Yeah, yeah.
And enable people to share different approaches. And the archive is one such site where you could take some materials out, pass it around, and people will respond to it differently. So the archive is a good place to activate connections and to allow different knowledges, a plurality of knowledges, to come back and forth and layer our understanding.
That's really helpful for me to give me a different perspective. So for anybody who's joining us at home who's not quite sure, we have an archive. It's this room in the basement of the cathedral. And essentially, since the cathedral was built, or from before it was built, people have been collecting documents and photographs and pieces of creativity and all sorts of things. And so we have this kind of treasure trove of knowledge, but you have gone and sort of mined that treasure trove and brought out things which reveal new parts of our story to us, but also it creates connections, as you said, but also shows difference. And I think we've got a very fractured society, it feels like at the moment. And sometimes rooting back into your shared story and discovering points of connection can be really powerful, but also bringing things out and seeing different people's perspectives on something, a part of our story. It's powerful work.
Yes. I think probably maybe half of the archives are catalogued.
Yeah.
So I did find some very valuable materials in the catalogue, but a lot of it's in the uncatalogued kind of ephemera.
Yes.
But I would say they're not only paper archives, there are media archives. I see the building as a living archive as well, and a point of connection. And we do repeat the same kind of mainstream story.
Yeah.
Most institutions have a repetitive pattern of storytelling. And I guess I'm interested in what's on the side, what's been sitting on the side, what's been in the shadows, and how can we come forward with that. If you just take the example of the boulder that's come from 6 miles outside of Bethlehem.
Oh, yes. We have if you've never been to Coventry Cathedral, we have this big stone, which came, as Nirmal said, from just outside Bethlehem, and we use it as our font. It sits underneath the big baptistry window, and it's remarkable. It's getting smooth on the top now from all the people that have touched it over 60 years.
I think it's good that people can touch it.
Yeah.
We had a workshop with that boulder.
Okay.
As you know, Gaza was being bombed. I found it strange how to connect my work. There is quite a lot on Palestine actually in the archives, and I worked with some collaborators on that, largely through a slide collection. But going back to the boulder, we brought in a geologist and also scholars and authors who are from Gaza, from Palestine. So the geologist Stuart Burley mentioned that it's 100 million years old, the boulder.
Oh my gosh.
And enabled, the public, a disparate group of public, to come and look up close at the marine life that's inside in the boulder. But at the same time, our friends and colleagues and comrades from Gaza, Palestine, read poetry and read from their works. Mona Dejani, Ashjan Ajour, and Ashjan actually served Palestinian tea.
Yeah.
So we gathered, we spoke, we contemplated, and it became a touchstone for planetary and geopolitical moments.
Yes.
So that's, I guess, one example of how we can activate the building and how it's a living building and build community for live, urgent, contentious issues.
Yes. And I think that's the thing. You can tell Coventry's story in like 2 or 3 minutes, which we tried to do when we did our first episode, myself and my colleague Natano. But actually, there's real depth and texture to Coventry's story. And there's a richness. And it's so exciting to discover more about this building, this, like you say, this archive of so many different things which have the potential to speak about the past, but also about the future and the present and about different groups and make connections. It's amazing. Amazing.
Yes, the Coventry story is a set of global stories and planetary stories, and we tend not to fully appreciate that, I think. So the global connectedness of the cathedral And you will know, Kate, in the exhibition Absence Presence, which is on at the moment, the opening text has a quote. One of the quotes on the opening text is by Basil Spence. And in there, he mentions how, as a young boy, when he was 8 years old, he was taken by his father to the Elephanta Caves in Bombay, and that profoundly influenced him. It caught his imagination and it influenced him in the design of the cathedral. Most people don't know that, even though it's sitting straight and square at the start of chapter 2 of his book on the cathedral. So what happens if we blow up that quote? What if it was there right at the front when you entered the cathedral? It would also change your own relationship to the cathedral, and it would make it global. And of course, he was there because of empire, so it would connect empire straight away. And the other quote that's on the opening text in the Absence Presence exhibition is from Cyril Brown, who was from Jamaica, and it's taken from the press, where in a few words he tells the reporter that he was, helping to build the cathedral. He's from Jamaica, and he was sending letters regularly home as a kind of diary on the progress of the cathedral. Now, those two elements don't really sit in the usual stories of the cathedral. So, all the rock as we've crafted it, and I guess I'm interested in that reimagining through the sharing of the archive and placing information in different ways. So it's a work of interpretation. It's also a work of, I think it affects how you live in the cathedral once you know those facts.
Absolutely. And I think, I suppose my question is, why Coventry Cathedral? Is it because you're a Coventry girl, or is it because there's something about the building that you find attractive and interesting, or both?
Yes, both, because if you're born in Coventry, most people, the cathedrals, I shouldn't assume that, but for me, it was a common passing point. So as a child, my father worked, when he retired from Ford, he worked at the Herbert Art Gallery. And as a child with my family, we would have passed through the ruins, gone to the Herbert. It was on our passageway of life. However, there was a disconnect between the narrative that sits with the cathedral and the global stories that came in our lives. So we know, of course, it was bombed by the Luftwaffe and so on. But my father was in that war, in World War II, but there was a disconnect between, where he had fought in the Middle East and how his story had been registered, and then the colonial reality in the middle of it, and the common ways in which remembrance is conducted. That's how I came to Noise of the Past. So that's why we create Noise of the Past, to think of the global war dead, to think of how we can institute a call and response between generations, to remember without militarism, but also to bring the colonies from all over the world into the story of stories. So I don't know if I've answered your question. I've started answering it, I think.
No, I think you have. And it's, it's that the personal connection, but also the connection with the academic work you've been doing, and like you say, the disconnect. And I suppose we talk a lot at the cathedral about reconciliation, which always feels a little bit like a hostage to fortune, because the minute you start talking about being a reconciled space or people who are about reconciliation, then you instantly discover how limited you are, because that's a big thing, and there will always be conflicts and differences that perhaps we're just not even aware of. And I think actually the work that you've been doing is so valuable, because it does just broaden our vision and help us see where this might be good, but we've missed out so much that's rich and good because our perspective has been so narrow. So what do you think about reconciliation, and what do you think about how we as a cathedral might continue to develop that story, and that message and that ministry.
As you say, Kate, it's a contentious space.
Yeah.
It's not just a cuddly space.
Yes.
It's a contentious space. There are different approaches.
Yeah.
And reconciliation means something else depending on where you are, what the context is. So it can't be a historical approach.
Yeah.
It's very specific. And I think it's worth thinking about how the cathedral used to have a library in the 60s. It had a study centre. There's a list in the archive with some of the books that were bought for it, some of the courses that were taught.
Yeah.
And, I was surprised to see that there were books that I was taught as a sociologist in there, the sociology of race, sociology of empire.
Yep.
And so it might be interesting. It might be a kind of experimental exercise to constitute a library. And to allow different people in the cathedral, not only the senior people, because everyone has knowledge, from the welcome desk to the person cleaning the building, to bring a book on reconciliation or connect it to reconciliation. And then this library, it's almost as if you could go back to the study centre. There was a study centre here.
Yeah.
But start small scale. Of course, there was a larger team.
Yeah.
Canon Peter Berry was a
team.
chaplain of industry, and he was part of many of those courses in the 60s on race and racism.
Yeah.
So I think one could start through that, and then start having workshops and maybe screenings, and open the category up, open it up. Yeah. But of course, that will bring contention.
Yes.
And it's how do you occupy that space of contention without sitting on the fence as well?
Really hard, isn't it?
Really hard, because as you know, previous canons in the past have been very influential, for instance, in the CND.
Yes. Yeah.
And this is a big concern at the moment with young people, with students. And so sometimes we keep away from issues when it's the moment to get in the middle.
Oh gosh, yes, always. I mean, I love what you're saying. I think there's a real thing about how we perhaps don't necessarily, we shouldn't necessarily claim expert space on reconciliation, but it's just that we care about it and think about it because of our story, and how do we hold space for other people to talk about what they think reconciliation might be, and help everybody to think about the space for reconciliation in their own life. But it's a constant conversation here in the cathedral. There's always really big issues, and what does it mean to be a reconciler in times of injustice and in times of conflict. And in fact, I've been invited to talk at a couple of things in the coming year, and every time it's always, how can we be a peacemaker in contentious times? Is reconciliation even something that's possible?
Yeah, I think it's be careful of setting yourself up. So if we think about the moment of the right-wing march that happened last weekend in central London, 100,000 people, shockingly so. Well, how do we reconcile that? There are strong words of hate in there. People want to send people back, where even if they're born here, that this is, violent language. Yeah. And there's this sense of, some people have this sense that we want to be England, we want to be ourselves, we want to be great again. Well, in the middle of that is what the academic Paul Gilroy might say is a melancholia of empire. Yeah. So empire needs to be, in order to mourn it, you need to recognize what it was in the first place. The violations of empire. And you if you keep talking about its greatness, then you're never going to be able to move on from it. Yeah. So I guess what's interesting, one of my podcasting guests, Aya Nasser, is a geographer at Durham University now, but has spent a lot of time in Coventry as she was a PhD student and postdoctoral fellow at Warwick. In the podcast, she talks about how when there were far-right demonstrations, previous year in the summer, I think Mary was here then, Mary Gregory. She found herself walking to the cathedral. She didn't set out to. She just found herself walking to the cathedral. She was troubled by these far right demonstrations, and I think at that time Mary was there to speak of that difficult time and to say that we are a space, as you say, a space for holding people, to say that this is a safe space for them. And I didn't actually realise the full kind of gravity of what Mary had done until Aya mentioned that to me, and how her body felt different coming here at that moment of danger. Because right now, people are feeling they're in a moment of danger. I mean, I feel like I've gone back to the 70s, as if, we're having these flashbacks, and you've gone on high alert. You walked through areas looking for where are the flags.
Yeah.
So it's highly, the affect is very, very different right now in this moment. So I guess it's a moment for, in that context, to invite space, to make space, to enable those conversations to happen.
Yeah. And I think in some ways, we almost have come full circle to the work that you first did about the noises of the past, and how do we remember well, and how do we remember as a global community, and not just as one constituent within a globe. Because in the UK, we're rubbish at remembering empire. We pretend it doesn't happen. And I think I heard a theory recently that said that we remember so much about the Second World War and having won that, because then we don't have to deal with the consequences of the breakup of empire. And they get all the things get kind of intertwined a bit, don't they? So remembering well and recognising the global connections are two key themes from your work, but two key things that we need a lot of right now.
Yes. And the empire was part of that war, and it was part of World War I as well.
Yes.
So it's recognising that, and it shifts then how you remember. It very much shifts it, which is what we're doing with the exhibition, Absence Presence, where we're trying to remember how different people from different parts of the world, also from Coventry, but from the empire, refugees, they were all here present when the cathedral was being built, but also they brought their skills to the cathedral.
Yeah, and it is a remarkable exhibition. So if you catch this before the exhibition is finished, do please come along. I could talk to you for hours about this, because it's such fascinating work and such timely work. And we're just really grateful to have you here at the cathedral, doing this work, which so enriches our story, but also helps us to gain a fresh perspective on our story and where we sit in the city and in the wider world. So we do just want to highlight to people, if you see this before the end of September, then we have the Absence and Presence exhibition, which is in our Chapel of Christ the Servant and is well worth a look. But also, do you want to tell us just a little bit about the Here podcast, which is another remarkable piece of work you've been doing?
Yes, thanks, Kate. So the Here podcast relates to 8 guests that have been on my podcast, and it's a site-responsive podcast, so it's been recorded in different parts of the cathedral.
Yeah.
And each of those guests bring their own subject specialism.
Yeah.
I invited them partly because of that. So you can listen to that. 3 of our guests from the podcast, Monica Brown, Holly Cooper, Nitano, and Muller, the Canon, are actually at our event on Friday.
Yeah.
So we'll have some, conversation with the exhibition Absence Presence, which brings in stories that are in the shadows through the archival stories, but also looks at photography from the Lang archive, and invites actually the viewer to take on that search of looking for figures who are not regularly there.
Yeah.
and what it feels like to conduct that search. So I wanted the viewer to feel that. And now, in addition to that, the podcast's on a website, and in that website still emerging, we have a experimental zine index in there, and that helps the audience to navigate my journey through the archives.
Yeah.
And it shares some of the material that you wouldn't expect.
Yeah.
From the archives, also from outside the archive. For instance, if you type in Ravi Shankar to the catalogue, there's nothing.
Yeah.
However, if you dig around some shelves, you will find something.
Yes.
That's a little teaser for what you'll find in the experimental zine index. Because he played here in the 60s with Allah Raka, who was also a well-known tabla player. He's the father of Zakir Hussain. So we're hoping to also carry on this work in the future and revisit some of those music moments with music moments. And then you'll also find quite a lot of coverage of events. We had a lot of events with this project at the cathedral, including revisiting the Acorn story of John Lennon and Yoko Ono.
Okay.
Their attempt to install a living sculpture through the Acorns for Peace, which was controversial. Then also how these stolen acorns, which Sarah shared the story with me when it came in, were found. How they were found, and now they sit in Liverpool in the museum up there. But we revisited it by linking with Yoko Ono's studio because it was conceptual art.
Yeah.
It tends to be kind of overwhelmingly seen as a, starstruck story. But Yoko Ono was already a conceptual artist before she met John Lennon.
Yeah.
And we connected with some of her instructions and instituting them on the lawn out there.
Wow.
And again, we connected and brought specialists. So Paul Wood, the specialist on trees, my colleague Ross Gray from Goldsmith, who works on art and archaeology, and Pete Chambers from the Music Museum, as well as Jude Keats, local musician, who sung some of the John Lennon's music. So they're the kind of gatherings that are in the events pages, as well as conversations with people who were not on the podcast, but they're more informal. Yeah. This included people from the cathedral team and outside of the cathedral team.
Wow.
And yes, this could go on. I have to actually tell myself to stop the project.
Yeah.
But it's ongoing. And I have to say, it's the cathedral team, as you say, they have been very receptive from these different departments. Sarah from public engagements, Carla before Sarah, and then also Freya from the welcome desk, who actually found models for the Braille, models of the cathedral from a project that Professor Hull had made in the early 90s, and this has just sat in a cupboard. So we have a podcast conversation with Freya and Matthew Horspool, who actually sings in the choir here and is blind.
Wow. Which Professor Hull was that?
Yeah, Hull he went blind himself. He was from Birmingham University. Passed
John
away.
Hull?
Yes.
Oh my goodness, he taught me.
Well,
we'll talk about this later. Anyway, right.
Yes. So, it's all these connections are very strange, aren't they? And
I think you're just demonstrating why you are indeed a master connector with everybody, all these people you've mentioned from all these different disciplines and, areas of our shared life, and bringing them together to do this incredible work.
Well, you also, your name is interesting for me because I know how long have you been here now, Kate?
By the time this goes out, it'll be almost 5 months.
Yes. So I remember when you first arrived, and what stuck in my ear was your surname, Massey, because I've read a lot of work by the geographer feminist Doreen Massey.
Okay.
She's published loads. She is no more. Published loads on space, globalization, space and gender. And in fact, she used the phrase space invaders, which became the title of my book, when she's describing herself on the football terraces, being a space invader, but also belonging on those terraces in terms of gender.
Yeah.
So I find it hard to think of Kate Massey without Doreen Massey.
Wow. Well, I shall need to go and look at her books then, see my namesake, or I'm her namesake, suppose, and learn more about her work. It sounds fascinating. Well, look, thank you so much for making time. Thank you for all the work you're doing with us, but thank you for making time to come and talk about a little bit of your work and your story and your vision for reconciliation and what Coventry Cathedral could be. So thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.